First off, I'd like to state right off the bat that this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not gaming the algorithm. This isn't how to grow your channel to a millionaire status in 10 days. Because when you type in YouTube advice, that's all you're gonna get. I mean, type in YouTube advice right now. That's all it is. The funny thing is, though, clearly none of this advice actually works, because if you actually go to these people's channels, most of the time, they're not getting many views. And I'm not trying to say, well, I'm actually super successful, you should listen to me. I mean, that's clearly not true. This channel has a grand total of 30 views at the moment. My main channel has some relative successes, but nothing super crazy. The point of the advice I want to give is not for the prospect of becoming a millionaire overnight. It's for those people who enjoy YouTube on a conceptual level and want to get into making videos, but they don't know where to start. But that is where the corny advice comes in. You just need to start. You just need to start making videos, and you just need to start uploading them. I think it's a fairly common trope to see people buy everything in advance, and it's always the best equipment. They buy the best camera, the best mic, they soundproof their entire room, and those people are still as directionless as before they were when they bought all this expensive equipment. Here's the God's honest truth, and this is why you just need to start. You do not know what you need to improve before you start doing anything. Simply observing how a YouTube video ought to be isn't enough, because every single person who makes the best YouTube videos didn't start with that. They didn't start on the top, they started at the bottom. Because let me put it this way, the first YouTube video you ever make is going to be a crash course. You're not gonna know how to do anything. For my main channel, I write scripts. I'm just going off the top of my head for this video, so I understand writing a script doesn't always apply, but just hear me out. That is the starting point for me, and when I wrote my first script for my first video, is it as quality as the scripts I write today? Hell no. I feel like the way my scripts flow nowadays are much improved. When I started editing, I knew a little bit. I mean, I knew how to put the video on the timeline, knew how to put the audio under it, but did I know much more than that? Not really. Every time I wanted to do something even slightly complicated, I had to look it up. I had to stop what I was doing and go to a tutorial. But that's entirely necessary because you can't look up everything in advance. You're gonna be going along, you're gonna realize, something like this would be cool here. You're gonna realize you don't know how to do it, and you're gonna have to stop and go look it up. But that's how you learn. And going forward, you know how to do it now. I mean, even recording footage. OBS to me now is extremely simple to use, but back then, I didn't know what I was doing. It was complicated. There's a lot of options to go through. I even fucked up and recorded in the wrong format, and I lost a ton of footage because of that. Furthermore, when recording some old games, the footage came out all fucked up, like it was a window in the corner. It was just unusable. Now, not only do I know all the proper settings, I know to check the footage, to do a test before I record the whole damn thing. And overall, my workflow was just piss poor. It took me a long time to make this first video because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know keyboard commands, I didn't know shortcuts, I didn't have good file organization skills. These are all things that will get better with time. When I finally got through all these trials and tribulations, I got everything, I whipped together a really bad thumbnail, and I finally uploaded it. And was the video amazing? No, of course not. It's the worst video I've ever made. Not that I made a bad video per se. It is what it is. You have to start somewhere, and I'm proud of it. I took an idea that was just bouncing around in my head, and I sat down, and I wrote it out, and I recorded it, and I edited it, and I uploaded it. What I'm trying to say here is your first video isn't going to be perfect. It's not going to be amazing. You need to remove the expectation that your first outing has to be the best thing ever, or else it's a failure. You just might as well quit after that. That's not true. You're not producing a Hollywood movie. You're not sinking a bunch of money into this. You are simply giving your time to what at the start should just be a hobby, because that's what it should be. We can all have aspirations of being a big YouTuber and doing this for a living, but you need to have the mindset that this is just gonna be a hobby, at least at the start. I think a lot of people just say they want to be a YouTuber because it sounds cool. It sounds like being a video game designer. But if you ever said you want to be a video game designer, that's probably before you knew that it was actually really hard work that was dependent on a lot of technical know-how. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say making a video game is as hard as making a YouTube video, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not all just fun. It's not just hitting record and then uploading it. The editing process is very time consuming, but with that, it's also extremely satisfying. But only if it's something you actually enjoy, if it's something that you want to sink time into. It's really like any skill that you want to get good at that doesn't necessarily net you profit. I think if you talk to a large amount of fishermen, you'd be hard pressed to find ones that aspire to make it a job, even though you could technically become a professional fisherman to some capacity. No, they just like fishing and they've put time and money and energy towards the hobby because it brings them joy. That is ultimately the best way to get traction on YouTube, because if you're just continuously chasing that bag, it's gonna be frustrating and you're gonna quit. Starting YouTube is more about setting expectations more than anything. You're not gonna set the world on fire. But before I wrap this up, I'll leave off with some more tangible advice as opposed to just a mindset. When making a first video, do not bite off more than you can chew. Long-form content is all the rage nowadays, and it can be super tempting to start out with something like that, but here's my advice. Do not do that. I have vivid memories of writing an extremely long, probably like an hour-long video on Homefront of all things, and that's because I was inspired by people who made similar types of videos. Something like an Accursed Farms with Ross's Game Dungeon, or Tsnakerer, or however you say this guy's fucking name. But hey, did any of those guys start out with making this kind of content, these extremely long videos? No, they built their way up to it. But on my end, that was basically not observable. I saw the content that I liked and I wanted to create it. But hey, I wrote a long script, I recorded the whole thing, but when it got to the editing process, I was completely overwhelmed and I gave up. I would recommend not exceeding a 20-minute mark. Even a 20-minute video represented a huge hurdle when I first started. Secondly, I would like to say that you should come at this with a novel idea. Something that's been kicking around in your head that you've put a lot of thought into, even if it wasn't necessarily for a YouTube video. That would be the kind of perfect thing to start with. My first video doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of my channel, just had this idea kicking around and I wanted to make it. I understand there's a hesitancy because you might think you won't be able to do it justice, but you can always remake the video. You can come back to the topic once you have more know-how, but starting with something that you're really interested in will come across to the audience as well. Honestly though, it doesn't even have to be that crazy. There's plenty of YouTube channels that are just recreating the old COD gameplay commentary. I guess that's what I'm trying to do with this channel as well, just topics over gameplay mostly. Not playing COD because I'm not hugely into that. The visual aspect isn't even that important. They're just bringing stories to the table, interesting topics. But even if you get a minimal amount of audience interaction on your videos, people want to echo your excitement or enthusiasm for a topic. Maybe it's not even enthusiasm, maybe it's negativity, but that breeds conversation and interest as well. But the main thing I want you to take away from this is to just start. There's nothing stopping you. It's a free website. OBS is free. You can record shit with your phone. You don't need the best, most expensive mic. As long as it's not ear rape, most people don't care that much. You have plenty of avenues and opportunities to start, and getting better is just a series of trial and error. But I think that's gonna do it for what I have to say about this topic. Again, this is a secondary channel. My main channel is way more edited and I write scripts and stuff, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. Thanks and bye.